Hello, and welcome to Midnight Tales, a space where everyone can immerse themselves in peace and enchantment before drifting off to sleep. Tonight, we'll explore another captivating story that invites calm and lightness, helping you rest and recharge. But first, let's take a moment to gently prepare our bodies and minds for a soothing, restorative night's sleep. Make yourself comfortable, and with each slow inhale and long exhale, allow any cares from the day to slip away. It's not always easy to detach from the hustle and mental overload, especially before bed. However, remember this: the less we worry about how quickly we'll fall asleep, the easier it is for our minds to release any tension. Let the rhythm of your breathing carry away lingering worries, and let the story you're about to hear guide you into deep relaxation. Now, close your eyes and allow the magical atmosphere to softly envelop you. Enjoy the story, and may you find peaceful, restful sleep here on Midnight Tales. Alara surfaced from sleep gradually, drawn upward by the faint, far-off cries of gulls and the gentle weight of early sun upon her face. A languid stretch unfurled through her limbs as she rolled onto her back, the ceiling swimming into focus, followed by the slow, delicious realization: vacation. Her watch, retrieved from the small bedside table, confirmed the early hour. Sleep had been a deep, unbroken peace, leaving her rested, poised for the slow unfolding of the day ahead. Silence, deep and encompassing, seemed to hold the small hotel, yet a soft click from the hallway, a door latching, followed by the whisper of stockinged feet descending the stairs, revealed she wasn't entirely alone. Another soul embracing the dawn, moving with considerate quietness. The thought brought a faint smile to her lips. This hushed beginning felt perfect, serene. Swinging her legs over the side of the bed, she pushed back the cloud-like white comforter. Beneath her toes, the wide planks of the floor felt satiny, their glossy painted surfaces smoothed by more than a century of passage. Alara rose, stretched again, and drifted towards the window. Her room surveyed the hotel's charming facade and the street beyond, where a line of venerable houses stood sentinel, their broad porches inviting repose. Flags stirred on some. Bicycles leaned casually against others. Among them, the comfortable, old-fashioned cruisers, often seen near the shore, invariably painted in cheerful hues like canary yellow or flamingo pink. Her gaze followed surfers walking shoreward, vibrant boards balanced easily, remnants of dawn's first light clinging to them. Dripping, relaxed, happy, they radiated the contentment of hours already spent dancing with the waves. She pictured them anticipating a well-deserved, hearty breakfast. Shifting her view, Alara took in the hotel's own welcoming face. Bay windows gleaming, festive flower boxes spilling over with cascades of petunias. Rocking chairs dotted the porch, accompanied by small tables perfectly sized for a steaming mug or a sweating glass of lemonade. One lone guest sat in blissful absorption, newspaper spread wide, coffee emitting fragrant steam beside him. A mental bookmark was placed. Find time later for porch sitting. Alara and her friend Maya nestled in another cozy room just down the hall, had arranged to meet for breakfast when the hotel restaurant stirred to life. This coastal escape had been a spontaneous decision, a craving for a different vista, a slower rhythm. And now, breathing it in, Alara knew this secluded enclave was precisely right. A sleepy haven comprising little more than the hotel, a tranquil neighborhood, and a simple roadside stand offering snacks, coffee, and necessities. The hotel itself was an elder statesman, rooted here long before the surrounding homes gradually materialized over decades. With the bustling city a mere 20-minute drive away, the clutter of shops and conveniences had never encroached. The hotel provided the essentials: umbrellas, chairs, beach toys. The restaurant offered sustenance, even packed lunches for the sand. What more could a visitor truly desire? The profound quietude of this hidden corner was a treasure worth any perceived trade-off. From her canvas weekender, Alara retrieved her beach attire, the simple pleasure of dressing purely for leisure, anticipating breakfast in comfortable seaside clothes, felt wonderfully indulgent. She yearned to feel the warm sand yielding beneath her feet. The forecast promised flawless beach weather. Teeth brushed, hair loosely tamed, she laid her beach tote upon the bed. Her latest novel, sunglasses, lip balm, a water bottle, essentials gathered. With minutes still to spare before meeting Maya, she decided on an early foray downstairs for coffee. Picking up her key, attached to a diamond-shaped plastic fob bearing the room number, she stepped into the corridor, quietly securing the weathered white door behind her. The hallway floor mirrored her room's, painted white planks stretching the narrow length, lending the space a clean, luminous air. Staircases descended at either end. Between the room doors hung vintage prints, beachgoers from bygone eras in charmingly modest bathing costumes, an antique illustration of a lobster. Alara chose the longer route, traversing the hall to the farther stairs and descending into the lobby. The front desk stood unattended, a small bell resting upon it for urgent needs. Since arriving, however, Alara hadn't witnessed its use. Haste had no place here. Slipping into the well-appointed coffee station, she selected a mug, filling it with a dark steaming brew from the dispenser. She drew a tentative sip, nodding as the robust, satisfying flavor bloomed on her palate. Good coffee, only moments now until Maya would appear. Pushing open the screen door, Alara ventured onto the spacious porch. The earlier reader had vanished, leaving the entire expanse to her. She settled into a wicker chair, placed her mug on a nearby table, and leaned back gently. Even at this hour, the air was balmy, kissed by a soft breeze that tugged at stray tendrils escaping her ponytail. She could easily drift off right here, linger all day, but the beach beckoned. Minutes later, the screen door creaked open again. Maya peered out. "Morning," she greeted. "Ready for breakfast?" Together, they navigated towards the hotel restaurant. A welcoming host guided them through to the screened porch flanking the building. Delightfully, they were shown to a cozy table for two bathed in morning sun. Their server poured ice water from a charming carafe, took their orders, and promised a swift return. While awaiting their food, the two friends studied a paper takeout menu, already plotting their beachside lunch. A tempting array unfolded: cold sandwiches, boardwalk classics like grilled cheese and hot dogs. Ilera settled on a lobster roll with mayonnaise. Maya chose chicken salad. One of Ilara's enduring beach day joys was the heightened flavor food acquired by lunchtime. Something about the sun, the salt air, the sand itself seemed to amplify taste. She eagerly anticipated that first bite of lobster roll after hours by the sea. As they ate, other diners gradually filled the surrounding tables. A family nearby recounted yesterday's beach exploits with cheerful animation. Other tables suggested couples on romantic retreats or old friends enjoying a weekend reunion. The atmosphere was universally relaxed, happy. Shorts, sun hats, and flip-flops were the prevailing uniform. Bagels consumed, fresh squeezed orange juice drained, fruit bowls emptied. Ilara and Maya pushed back their chairs, gathering their totes, ready. The short stroll to the water awaited. Passing back through the lobby onto the front porch, they availed themselves of the hotel's complimentary beach gear. Maya selected an umbrella. Ilara chose two chairs, slung conveniently over her shoulder via straps. Descending the front steps, they joined the gentle current of people meandering towards the surf. In this profoundly quiet neighborhood, sidewalks were superfluous. Residents simply emerged from their houses, making the easy 5-minute trek to the sand, carrying all they needed, effortless. Ilara marveled at the sheer proximity to the water. Their location transformed everything. Within moments, they stood at the top of the steps, leading down to the sand, an inviting golden ribbon stretching before them. Low tide, mercifully. The beach offered its most generous expanse for now. Children, arriving with parents, instantly shed their sand toys and raced towards the water's edge. Their parents chuckled, scanning for spots high enough to remain safe from the incoming tide, at least until early afternoon. Ilara and Maya followed their lead, observing the sand's texture. They planted their umbrella where the sand was dry and soft, not damp and packed smooth, territory the tide hadn't recently claimed. Traveling light, just the two of them. Their setup was swift. Umbrellas staked, chairs angled towards the gently shimmering surf. Sinking into her seat, Ilara released a profound sigh, closing her eyes. The rhythmic hush of waves drifted soothingly across the sand, punctuated by the occasional plaintive cry of a gull. A light breeze carried the invigorating scent, the elusive taste of salt. She wished she could freeze this moment. Perfection. For a spell, they sat in companionable silence, absorbing the wonder of the place. Then, easy conversation flowed for a while. Eventually, both Ilara and Maya retrieved their novels, a silent pact made to lose themselves in printed worlds. Around them, other beachgoers settled into their own rhythms. A nearby family embarked on constructing an ambitious sandcastle, their small children making tireless pilgrimages to the surf, buckets brimming with water for the moat. The sand's thirsty absorption mattered little. The fetching itself was joyous entertainment. A young couple tossed a frisbee, their dog leaping exuberantly between them, attempting to intercept the soaring red disc. When it occasionally flew astray, another beach visitor would cheerfully retrieve and return it, often asking permission to pet the friendly canine, who seemed eager to befriend everyone present. No boardwalk bustled here. No advertising banners trailed from planes overhead. No traffic noise intruded. This beach felt like a precious, well-kept secret. In this languid fashion, time slipped away unnoticed. Ilara wasn't sure how long she'd read before realizing the sun stood high, and she drifted asleep, book resting open in her lap. Stirring, she glanced at Maya, who regarded her with a knowing smile over the top of her own book. The exact hour was irrelevant. Ilara knew she was ready for that lobster roll. They opened their bag, unwrapping lunch with keen anticipation, tucking cold water bottles into the sand beside them, tearing open chip bags with a satisfying crinkle. The tide had crept closer since their arrival. Children, energetic hours ago, now sought the shade of parental tents and umbrellas, claiming midday snacks. Ilara noticed a mother nearby, a baby sleeping peacefully across her lap. The sea air possessed a unique duality, refreshing yet profoundly soporific. The lobster roll and chicken salad sandwich were soon devoured. Both declared excellent. Dusting crumbs from her lap, Ilara stood, announcing her intention to dip her toes in the water. Maya nodded understandingly. Hours under the sun made the sparkling water look utterly irresistible. Ilara wandered down to the waves, watching as the surf crept up the sand, swirling coolly around her ankles. Deliciously chilly, it was the perfect counterpoint to the accumulated warmth. Reaching down, she splashed the frigid water onto her shoulders and the back of her neck. Shielding her eyes, she surveyed the activity in the water. A woman floated serenely on an inner tube, munching an ice cream sandwich. Now that's inspired, Ilara thought with a grin. She studied the wet sand beneath her feet as water washed in, paused, then receded, revealing fleeting, glittery flecks mixed within, visible only underwater. Quite beautiful. Strolling along the surf's edge, she reached a rocky outcrop teeming with tide pools. Balancing carefully on the uneven surfaces, she peered into the trapped miniature worlds, watching tiny hermit crabs scuttle about. Children knelt nearby, absorbed in close observation. One dashed back towards his parents on the dry sand, eager to report his finds. Looking up, Alara saw Maya, now a small distant figure beneath their umbrella. She slowly traced her way back along the encroaching waterline, returning to her seat. Picking up her book again, Alara noticed Maya had dozed off and smiled inwardly. Even that short amble along the shore had renewed her desire to simply sit, relax. As the afternoon deepened, time seemed to suspend itself. Alara frequently looked up from her novel, pleasantly lost in thought. She watched a man skillfully flying a vibrant kite, observed the steady growth of the nearby sandcastle fortress. Some of the children, who had run tirelessly all day, now slept soundly in the shade beside their parents. A few families began the slow process of departure, shaking sand from buckets, filling in holes, collapsing colorful chairs. The tide, relentless, was drawing significantly closer to their position. When Maya awoke, Alara confessed to feeling rather warm and surprisingly hungry again. Maya readily agreed it might be time to retreat to the hotel for a snack and to prepare for dinner. Gathering their belongings and the borrowed equipment, they slipped on their flip-flops and ascended the stone steps back to the street level. Activity hummed along the street now. Beachgoers streamed away from the water, yes, but yards brimmed with late afternoon life. At one sprawling home, a family engaged in a light-hearted game of croquet. Next door, preparations were underway for an outdoor meal. Children tumbling in and out of the house. Some youngsters appeared freshly bathed and dressed for dinner. Others, still gloriously sandy in swimsuits, likely awaited their turn, chasing each other through the yard with dripping popsicles. Soon, Alara and Maya reached the hotel, gratefully depositing the umbrella and chairs on the porch. After a quick dusting, they carefully returned the items to their designated spot, ready for the next guests. Stepping into the lobby, they discovered a delightful surprise. Afternoon coffee hour was in full swing. Hot beverages and iced lemon water were offered alongside trays of warm chocolate chip cookies, each nestled in its own paper sleeve. Alara selected one, smiling as she slid it free, and took a bite. Soft, studded with slightly melted, semi-sweet chips, dusted with large crystals of sugar. Perfection. Sinking into two plush armchairs in the lounge area, Alara and Maya grinned at each other, savoring their cookies in contented silence, an ideal bridge to their later dinner reservation. They watched the ebb and flow of people through the lobby for a while, warm greetings exchanged, queries posed to the desk attendant. After a bit, Maya suggested they separate to rest and refresh in their rooms, proposing they reconvene at twilight for a neighborhood stroll before dinner. Ascending the old wooden staircase single file, they parted ways in the upper hallway with promises to meet again shortly in the lobby. Lara slid her key into the lock. A satisfying clunk, and the door swung inward. Her room welcomed her, sun slanting through the window. The bed a soft mountain of white linens. A sigh of pure happiness escaped her. After freshening up, she curled into the decadent orange velvet chair by the window. From this regal perch, she watched people strolling below. The petunias in the window box nodded cheerfully. Groups ambled up the road, returning from their own late afternoon pursuits, naps, games, conversations. Leaning her head against the chair back, she took several slow, deep breaths. She couldn't recall the last time she'd felt so utterly relaxed. Without conscious intent, Alara drifted into a light doze. The flutter of white curtains against the setting sun gently woke her. A glance at her watch confirmed she hadn't slept long. She was still perfectly on time to meet Maya. Rising, stretching, she circled the room slowly, collecting her small purse and key. She slipped quietly into the hallway, locking her door just as Maya emerged from hers, a few doors down, doing the same. Together, they descended to the lobby. The coffee station remained, but the cookies had vanished, cleared in anticipation of the dinner service. Peeking into the restaurant, Alara saw servers arranging tables, seating the first evening guests. Their walk would perfectly whet their appetites for a leisurely dinner. As they pushed through the swinging screen door onto the porch, the faint clinking of water glasses drifted from within the hotel. Turning towards the beach, they were met by a sky ablaze with pink and orange, a spectacular sunset. Many neighbors were out in their yards, witnessing the celestial display. As they strolled down the street, each house offered a unique vignette. Charming individuality reigned. A modest Cape Cod with quaint shutters nestled beside a contemporary structure boasting vast glass expanses, which in turn neighbored a traditional farmhouse-style home with a gracious, deep porch. Numerous houses featured tables and outdoor seating, testament to frequent alfresco dining. In one yard, a woman relaxed with a little girl in a hammock. With dusk settling and houses illuminated from within, windows thrown open wide, glimpses of indoor life became visible. People sipping drinks on couches, gathered around cheese boards, even playing a piano. At one home, a pile of sand toys dried near the garage, while a man played catch with two small girls in the front garden. Dogs pranced excitedly behind picket fences. What a fine life for a dog, Alara mused. She noticed more and more people appearing outdoors, setting up luminaries along driveways, white paper bags weighted with sand, a lit candle nestled within. Other homes glowed with white string lights wound around trees and fences. Maya recalled seeing a flyer mentioning tonight was the Night of White Lights, explaining the festive illuminations. Ilera found it utterly charming. The street looked magical, Their walk eventually led them along a stretch paralleling the beach. The tide, having peaked while they rested, was now receding again. Figures dotted the shoreline, couples, small groups, seemingly drawn from evening activities to admire the moonrise or toss toys for leaping dogs. Alara loved seeing how many ambled along completely barefoot, having wandered just a block or two from home. Returning to the hotel, they marveled at their perfect timing. Re-entering the lobby, they waited patiently for the restaurant host to lead them to their reserved table. The dining room now possessed a lovely ambience. Votive candles flickered on each table, and the two screened porches hummed with the quiet conversation of diners bent over their meals. Ilara and Maya were seated at a snug table in a nook, perfectly positioned to feel the warm evening breezes drifting past. The menus presented a delightful dilemma: fresh seafood, pastas, wood-fired pizzas, something for every palate. After careful consideration, Alara chose a seafood pasta. Maya opted for pizza. Both dishes proved sublime, deeply satisfying after a long day immersed in sun and sea. Why? Alara pondered idly. Did simply sitting on sand induce such profound hunger? One of life's pleasant mysteries. They concluded their meal with a shared slice of cheesecake. Alara savored each mouthful, carefully sectioning small bites with her fork, relishing the dessert's rich creaminess. Cheesecake finished, they both admitted profound readiness for bed. Full, happy, and relaxed to their course, they thanked their server and the host, then walked slowly back into the lobby. Only the nighttime desk attendant remained, clearing the last vestiges of the coffee service, preparing the station for morning's first light. She turned and smiled. "Good dinner?" she inquired warmly. They both nodded, affirming its excellence, and it truly had been. Alara and Maya each poured a fresh glass of water from the dispenser before heading upstairs. Parting on the landing with quiet good nights, they knew this day would linger long in memory. Back in her room, Alara sank gratefully into the embrace of her large, soft bed. Gazing around with appreciation, she reflected on the loveliness of the place. The balmy night allowed the windows to remain open, admitting the occasional murmur of conversation or the soft whir of a bicycle from the street below. Propping herself against a mound of white pillows, she angled her book into the golden circle cast by the bedside lamp. The room's silence felt absolute, a tiny, peaceful cocoon suspended within the seaside town outside. She'd intended to finish her novel, but soon her eyelids grew heavy. Time for sleep. Setting the book aside for the morrow, she flattened the pillows, reached over, and extinguished the lamp. Turning onto her side, she watched, half asleep, as a sliver of moonlight traced a path across the white-painted floorboards. Everything here, she thought drowsily, was golden and white in the darkness. The salt-tinged breeze stirred her curtains once more. As sweet dreams began to claim her, Ilara heard the distant, rhythmic sigh of surf meeting sand. Then she slept. Good night. In the nascent years of the 2nd century, when the vast Roman Imperium pulsed under his command, the Emperor Aelius sought solace far from the capital's clamor. His sanctuary lay nestled within the picturesque folds of Tibur's countryside, a newly wrought estate, a mere 20 miles from Rome, yet worlds away in spirit. Here, amidst the burgeoning warmth of late spring, Aelius ambled through the sun-drenched gardens of his villa. He was a man sculpted by middle age, tall, his dark hair curling above a meticulously kept beard. Though an emperor, his attire spoke of ease, simple, light fabrics, sandals broken in by countless contemplative strolls. No heavy toga, no ornate tunic. Today was untethered from duty. Appointments were absent. The frantic energy of Rome, where he'd just spent a week overseeing architects rebuilding the city's great pantheon, a receding echo. Architecture, a passion second only perhaps to ruling, often consumed him, yet the city's ceaseless thrum inevitably wore thin. Escape to Tibur became necessity. A swift 2-hour ride by horseback transformed weekends into weeks, weeks stretching into languid months under the country sky. Now, having arrived that morning and partaken of a robust midday meal, Aelius was reacclimating to the estate's gentle cadence, undertaking his customary survey of the grounds. His shadow stretched long beside that of Vesta, his devoted black hound, trotting faithfully behind him through an elegant garden bordering the property. This space, a favored haunt, masterfully wove man-made opulence with nature's untamed grace. Pathways, flanked by statues of flawless marble and whispering fountains, wound onward. Fragrant wisteria tumbled down adjacent walls, cloaking the brickwork in cascades of violet blossoms. In the distance, sunlight shattered across the surface of an elongated pool. Silence reigned, save for the soft crunch of sandals on gravel, Vesta's quiet panting, and the liquid murmur of water. Aelius paused, listening intently. Birdsong, previously unnoticed, swelled into focus, the proximate twitter of sparrows dipping into fountain basins, interwoven with more distant, unseen melodies, drifting from the sheltering branches of cypresses and the stately umbrella pines encircling his domain. A profound sigh escaped him, heavy with contentment. To be back, here, where the week's accumulated pressures dissolved like mist. Each return stripped years away, lifted an invisible burden. Rome's relentless pace could only be borne for so long. Tibur felt like Arcadia reborn, peaceful, the air cool, untainted. Breathing deeply, a smile touched Aelius's lips. Fortunate, he felt, profoundly so, to possess not merely a house, but this haven, this self-designed refuge. The villa was the architecture of his soul made manifest. Dissatisfied with existing country estates near the capital, he envisioned something grander, more intensely personal, his ideal city rendered in miniature. Working alongside his architects, he birthed an enormous complex. Over 30 buildings sprawled across extensive gardens, an estate dwarfing Pompeii itself. Countless pools shimmered, fountains played, thermal baths steamed. Libraries stood beside temples. Grand courtyards opened onto elegant pavilions, and at its heart, A private domicile floated on a man-made isle. Expense was no object. Floors gleamed with rare marble, intricate mosaics of glass and ivory. Walls bore polished stone or vibrant frescoes. Rooms pulsed with vivid depictions of myth, beast, and fowl, while echoing the luxury inherent in imperial life. His Palatine Hill residence in Rome was no less lavish. This villa bore Aelius's unique signature. His hand guided the design. His eye selected the materials. It was conceived not merely as a display of wealth, but as a repository of his life, his journeys, his passions. Years had been spent traversing the sprawling empire, through lands later known as Britain, Greece, Turkey, Persia, North Africa. These odysseys, often dictated by imperial responsibility, also fed a deep-seated love of exploration. Verdant northern fields, stark southern deserts, memories clung to him, vivid and cherished. Consequently, the villa became a confluence of styles. Though classically Roman in its elegant layout, specific areas were deliberate evocations of his travels. He now walked through such a blended space. The path approached a long, artificial pool, embraced by stone columns and graceful archways. Majestic marble sculptures lined its edge, Roman deities mingling with a procession of Greek caryatids, draped female figures substituting for columns, upholding the entablature above. Approaching the water, Aelius smiled. The view invariably filled him with deep satisfaction. The intended symmetrical beauty, a perfect synthesis of Greek, Roman, and Egyptian aesthetics. This pool, representing a branch of the Nile, culminated in a shell-shaped grotto, part decoration, part shrine to Serapis, the Egyptian lord of the underworld. Within this cool recess reclined a marble effigy of the god, wild-haired, bearing a strange cylindrical crown like a vase. His expression calm, almost neutral, presiding over the tranquil, sea-green mirror of water from his elaborate plinth amidst burbling fountains. On warm evenings, Aelius often hosted extravagant banquets beside this water feature. He knew its power over guests, their inevitable praise for its aesthetic perfection, its dreamlike symmetry. Yet for Aelius, its beauty resonated deeper, steeped in symbolism and recollection. It was meticulously crafted to recapture the atmosphere of places visited during long sojourns through North Africa and Greece. Athens, its architectural splendor and vibrant culture, remain a potent memory. Days exploring ancient streets, participating in local rites, often with his cherished companion, Lysander. They had met during Aelius's travels eastward in Bithynia, and since then, their lives had been intertwined, traversing the empire side by side. Proximity to the villa's pool invariably transported Aelius back to those sunlit days in distant lands, Lysander near. Standing by the water's edge, time dissolved in a flood of happy remembrance. Reaching the grotto end of the pool, Aelius stood motionless, gazing into the depths, mesmerized by the interplay of light and reflected stone. Gradually, the specific memories ebbed, nostalgia softening into a quiet appreciation for the present moment. Those days abroad were golden, yes, but this, too, was a time of peace, of settled contentment. He felt more relaxed now, more comfortable within his own skin. Lifting his gaze, he surveyed the entire scene, the long sweep of water, the colonnades, the statues, the elegant arches. Through careful orchestration, a dream had solidified into a reality even more magical than conceived. Soon, the evenings would invite banquets here once more. Tables would circle the pool, guests reclining near the water, dining beneath a silvered moon. Closing his eyes, Alias could almost hear the phantom strains of music, laughter mingling with the fountain's gentle gurgle. He anticipated these long, unhurried summer nights with Lysander and his closest confidants. Opening his eyes, he found Vesta seated patiently beside him. Time to move on. He knew the old hound was happiest in motion. Too aged for the hunt now, she still reveled in roaming the estate, exploring every garden nook. As Alias turned back along the path, Vesta trotted ahead, nose glued to the earth, investigating every scent with profound concentration. He watched, amused by her fascination with seemingly ordinary patches of grass, stopping periodically to sniff one area with intense focus, as if deciphering complex olfactory messages. It struck him as curious, her utter indifference to the surrounding luxury, the sculptural marvels, the costly stone beneath her paws, unnoticed. Her world consisted of her master's presence and the narrative written in scents upon the ground. Any garden would suffice, anywhere, and she would be content. This simplicity was part of why Alias cherished dogs, their loyal companionship, their unconditional affection, and their potent reminder to find joy in the mundane. The villa's art and architecture were sublime, undeniably, but so too was the simple expanse of lawn. Alias inhaled deeply, drawing in the rich aroma of freshly cut grass. He couldn't discern Vesta's myriad smells, but this singular fragrance was enough. A scent of spring, yet it carried within it the promise of summer's fullness. These transitional moments held a unique beauty. Spring yielding to summer, summer fading into autumn. Reflecting thus, breathing the garden's perfume, that sweet nostalgia returned, tinged this time with a gentle melancholy, untethered to any specific memory. Perhaps, subconsciously, it stemmed from an awareness of time's relentless passage, seemingly accelerating with age. It felt like only yesterday he'd noted this same seasonal shift, yet a full year had spun round. Next spring, the surprise would likely repeat. He recalled Virgil's famous lament, "Fugit irreparabile tempus." It escapes irretrievable time. Now a common phrase, tempus fugit, time flies. Encountering the expression as a young scholar, it had made little impact. Youth felt infinite then, days stretching endlessly. But the poet knew time had indeed flown for Alias. Ascending to the emperorship at 40 marked a watershed. The years since seemed to gallop. A positive sign, perhaps, he mused. Evidence of a life lived richly, packed with incident. Yet, the awareness also served as a valuable prompt. Slow down, savor moments like this. Continuing along the path, Alias found his steps slowing, his awareness heightening with each footfall. each sensation: the grassy scent, the sun's gentle warmth on his neck. Vesta glanced back, tail questioning, likely impatient with his languid pace. An affectionate pat on her head, and he quickened slightly, heading towards the residential heart of the estate. Emperor and Hound passed a grand thermal bath complex, traversed smaller gardens and courtyards numerous as thoughts. Finally, they reached a colonnaded porch, the threshold to their destination, Alias's private island. Here stood a substantial house, a villa within the villa, boasting over 30 rooms, bedchambers, library, study, a compact bath suite. This luxurious edifice occupied the entirety of its artificial island, encircled by a shallow moat. Access was via a retractable wooden drawbridge. Though usually down, Elias cherished the option of raising it, sealing himself off entirely for study, relaxation, or undisturbed sleep. The island was a childhood fantasy realized. Squabbling with his sister, shirking tutors, young Alias had yearned for such an escape. Not just a room, but an island fortress, admission by invitation only, or often by none at all. His own small kingdom for peace and privacy. In boyhood dreams, it was a craggy rock lashed by a blue ocean. Reality differed, yet gazing now at the splendid house, its white marble luminous in the sun, contentment washed over him. Never, as a child, could he have imagined conjuring such an island from his own designs. Alias stepped onto the wooden span, Vesta close behind. Crossing, his gaze dropped to the moat, catching the silver flash of a fish darting beneath the surface. One of many fish ponds dotting the grounds. Their inhabitants offered a soothing presence. He often paused to watch them glide among the reeds. Perhaps the next project, an indoor pool, an aquarium filled with vibrant, exotic fish, maybe space in a bedchamber. He'd consult the architect soon, a perpetual dreamer, a constant planner. Ideas always simmered. Beyond the bridge, they entered the villa's grand entrance hall, an elaborate marble frieze depicting ships and sea creatures adorned the walls. Intricate mosaics patterned the floor. Their footsteps, echoing on the tiles, were the only sound. No servants bustled here. No visitors lingered without express permission. So much of his life demanded company. The quietude of this silent house was a balm. Vesta's quiet companionship was, for now, sufficient. She padded softly ahead, turning towards the study, seemingly anticipating his desire before he'd fully formed it himself. Alias followed her into the large, airy room overlooking the moat. This was his sanctum for personal pursuits, divorced from imperial burdens. Reading, composing poetry, delving into philosophy, sketching architectural concepts, or sometimes simply sitting, gazing from the window, lost in reminiscence or reverie. He entered intending to study, perhaps sketch ideas for the fish pond, but found himself instead reclining on the couch by the window, thoughts adrift. Inevitably, they circled back to past travels, the tour of southern Greece with Lysander, overseeing restorations of ancient shrines. Closing his eyes, the images remained sharp, clear. He hoped to return, or perhaps venture somewhere entirely new to the Empire's farthest shores. This potent wanderlust had pulsed through his entire life, but age brought perspective, the ability to gently reel his thoughts back to the present. Future travels were anticipated, but patience had grown. For now, he was perfectly content, precisely here. Opening his eyes, he saw Vesta curled in a corner, settled onto her favorite spot, a soft, worn piece of carpet, perhaps the only item in the entire villa showing its age, yet Alias resisted replacing it. Vesta always made straight for it, nesting comfortably in its center to sleep away the afternoon. Watching her doze peacefully, a sympathetic drowsiness crept over Alias. The busy week, the relaxing stroll, tiredness settled pleasantly upon him. Nothing demanded his attention. Why not nap? Another simple luxury, he thought with an inward smile. Perhaps another sign of encroaching age. Rearranging the cushions, he lay back, closing his eyes. A deep inhalation, and he felt mind and body surrender to stillness. The room was cool, profoundly silent. Only Vesta's quiet snores, a soft rhythmic counterpoint to his own steady breathing. Slow, deep breaths, finding their natural cadence, guiding him gently toward slumber. Thoughts of villa and voyages, past and future, began to blur, fading into the quiet background. The Emperor was crossing another threshold, entering a different, peaceful, private world, the sovereign realm of sleep.